Your mind is your computer. We can choose our thoughts, just like we can choose what news articles to read, we can choose what to put in our minds. If I say to think about pink elephants, you're perfectly able to do that. Your mind is your computer, and it's been shown that we can create new neural pathways by the thoughts that we choose. If our minds are our computers and we can choose our thoughts, why would we choose thoughts that make us miserable? This video is on how to be happy. My earliest memory was of wanting to die. I thought that people who said that they enjoyed sunsets and flowers were just making it up to get people to like them. So I was projecting, but happiness was a foreign concept to me. It felt like a chasm that was absolutely impossible to reach, if it existed at all. And I wasn't sure. I went from being that to, at 21, having at least a glimmer of wanting to live, and to what I am today, which is, in general, I am happy most of the time. That's my default. I've made a miraculous transformation. In fact, a lot of therapists who've heard my background have said that people with backgrounds like mine and often end up institutionalized. So the good thing about that is juicy memoirs, right? So wait for the book. But what I'd like to tell you today are the very practical things that I have implemented. I guard my sense of well-being ferociously. I take it seriously. We all say that we want to be happy, but actions speak louder than words. Talk is cheap. So if we really mean it, there are some simple steps that you can take. But like Ronald Reagan said, there are all kinds of simple answers, but not very many easy ones. Sometimes it's as easy as taking a pill, and other times you have to make life changes. So what do we do? What do we do when we do depression? How does that start? It usually starts with brooding. So brooding is when we rehearse things that are wrong with ourselves and our lives. It's usually related to unforgiveness, so bitterness, things that have been done to us, and shame, things that we believe are wrong with ourselves. And sometimes we simply fixate on the things that we just don't like, the details of our lives that we dislike. But regardless, when we look at the circumstances of our lives and we rehearse over and over and over again, we brood over what we don't like. In order to deal with that, I would start with Brené Brown. Brené Brown is someone who speaks to me because, like me, I'm someone that if I gather all the data and I am compelled that a position is the right one and I need to make a change, then I will make the change. But first I need to gather all the data, or I need to be presented with the data. It needs to be good data. I have to buy it, show me the double-blind study, and then I will implement whatever it is that I've been presented with. So Brené Brown she is a vulnerability researcher, and in her research what she found, and she seems no more amenable to vulnerability than I am by personality, which is not very, but that's why she speaks to me, because she's similar, or at least that's the impression I've had. So she presents us with the data that she's found, which is that the happiest people are those who believe that they are worthy of love with all of their flaws. So they're able to share their shame, share their pain with other people, and expect to be loved and receive love in return. Now, not everybody is going to be worthy, so community is obviously a huge factor in that. Step one, shame will steal the joy out of your life. Just like that. We do shame and we do bitterness for reasons. Everything that we do, it's an attempt to either provide for or protect ourselves. So shame is usually that we're attempting to protect ourselves from making a mistake, from repeating a mistake. If we shame ourselves for that bad thing that we did, then we won't do it again. And it's like bad dog training. When I was learning how to train my dog, you find anything that they're doing right and you go bananas over it. That is how to train an animal. And you make actually very little of the mistakes that they made, because people naturally, when you praise the good things that they do, they tend to just do more of them. So with shame, shaming ourselves for anything will not get us to behave better. Fear-motivated behavior is always going to be a coercive, outside-in sort of motivation where you want the chocolate cake, but you smack yourself for being too heavy, and that's how you get yourself to do it. And then eventually, in a weak moment, you usually cave and eat the chocolate cake anyway. The best way to be motivated is you already feel like you put on a swimsuit and you look fantastic, and then you see the chocolate cake and you think, I don't want to wreck what I've got going on here. And that is a much better way to be motivated. We're much more motivated by positive affirmation. So to get rid of the shame is a process, and obviously, and I would recommend Brené Brown's materials for that. You also need to get rid of your bitterness. When we rehearse wrongs, and it's very easy, looking backward is it's like a downhill slope. Just looking back, and especially when you're in depression, looking back over the things that have gone wrong, that you wish had gone right, that you did wrong, that someone did wrong to you, is an easy pattern to get into. Make the decision not to rehearse the wrongs, because they say unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Or, on the flip side, forgiveness is like letting someone out of a prison and realizing that it was you. So it's a selfish thing. Forgiveness, canceling a debt that you believe that someone owes you, and whether it's legitimate or not, you validate what was done to you, but you cancel the debt. And that sets you free. Meditating on those things, so brooding on the wrongs that have been done to you, on the things that you've done wrong, is going to leave you in a pit of darkness. And the choice that has to be made is not to look back. And it feels like an uphill choice at first, especially because, and this is just our brain wiring, our brain is efficient. When we think things, we develop neural pathways, and they're like rivers. So the thoughts and feelings naturally travel to the things that we have practiced over the years. And so to create new neural pathways, it can feel like an uphill choice at first, but eventually, kind of like when you see a snowball rolling down a hill in a cartoon, which I've never seen that in person, but we'll just go with that because it happens in cartoons. But when a snowball is rolling down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger, and eventually it takes on its own momentum. It starts off slow, but at first you have to keep making the choice. You have to keep making that deliberate choice, and to the extent that you can have healthy community in your life helping you to do that, helping you to make those healthy choices and getting toxic influences out of your life, you will find it easier and easier to make that choice. Now, granted, you may need a little help. So I found that even when I no longer had chaos in my life, I still felt like crap because I had practiced depression for my entire life. Even when all of the stimuli were gone, I still felt like crap. But I found something called 5-HTP. Some people go with pharmaceuticals, and some people go with black market options. Whatever the case may be, sometimes we need a little help rewiring our brain. So that's something where there's 100 ways to skin a cat. You can rewire your brain with music and pictures. There are clinics that do it, that will do a brain scan and help you rewire your brain. So this is a thing that's out there. You obviously need to learn how to be healthy, be vulnerable, process loss, choose your thoughts. If you've done depression for a long time, you may need help rewiring your brain. That doesn't mean, obviously, that you never think about negative things. You need to process loss. We all do. And as a culture, American culture is not into grieving. Instead of veering towards catharsis, which is processing loss, we lean towards medicating loss. So your dog dies, you should go shopping, eat chocolate, have a glass of wine. That's where our advice tends to flow, and it's dysfunctional, telling us to numb the pain. Just take a painkiller, just numb the pain. Except that when you have a loss, that's a wound that's not just going to simply heal on its own. It stays in your body until you process it. And this is something that I had a hard time understanding as someone who's not naturally really in touch with my emotions. But I used to think that if I started crying, when would it ever stop? What would be the point? Until I had a loss that I tried to medicate for a while. My medication of choice in that case was a Dove bar. I ate a Dove ice cream bar every single day. Just one, not a big deal. But then when I tried to quit, I found this monster was inside of me. And when I addressed it, I realized that it was the loss of a relationship, of a friendship that I had. And so I journaled. I wrote down everything that I lost when I lost that friendship. And then I sobbed all night long. And when I woke up the next morning, I felt better. And I had no experience with that because all I had ever known was growing up with pain and never having processed anything, really. So for me, to learn how to process loss was an epiphany. On the other hand, as a culture, we have a tendency to tell people to rehearse their offenses. So this is about the worst thing that you can do. Processing loss is one thing, but rehearsing your offenses is an awesome way to make yourself completely miserable. And we have this culture of victimhood that encourages people to rehearse their offenses on a regular basis, to live there, to live in woundedness, to live in victimhood. When you have a loss, you look at it, it's like going to a movie. You look at it, but you leave. You don't live there. There was a study done where they had a group of people do gratitude journals. So we've all heard that being grateful is a way to get happier. So one group of people wrote down for several weeks, they wrote down all the things that they were grateful for. Another group of people wrote down everything, all the offenses, all the bad things that happened to them during their weeks for several weeks. At the end of the study, the gratitude people were much happier than the people who rehearsed their offenses. There is just no point in doing that. When you complain, when you give air to your grievances, it makes you less happy. Here's another aspect of that, is how inward focused we are when we're rehearsing our offenses. Turning inward is also a surefire way to get depressed. So if you want to get happier, one of the easy action points that you can take is to turn outward. I have 4 things that I tend to do, which is pray, dream, create, and love. So pray. It's a good place to start. If you feel like you've got nothing, you can start there and ask for help. It's hard if you don't believe that God will help you. I do. I've experienced God's help enough times where I do trust that, but it's, granted, I get it, that it's hard to believe in something that you can't see. Regardless, if I'm at rock bottom, that's often where I start, a simple prayer. And then dreaming. So whatever excitement, and for me, praying and dreaming often go together. Dreaming can also be thinking about vacations, making plans, creating can go hand in hand with that. You dream and then you create. So whatever it is that you create, maybe you're someone who would like to create community. You could organize events. That would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You would be building your community and you would be creating something, but something that you put your effort and your inspiration into. Maybe you like to work on cars, or you write songs, or you paint, or maybe you write software applications. But whatever it is that you can turn creative energy into will give you that sense of reward, the dopamine reward in your brain that is a happy hormone. So we're talking about all the things that you can get as a happy hormone, which also includes hugs and warm beverages. And then the final thing in that list is, as I said, love. And when I'm talking about love, I mean think about things. Be thoughtful. If I'm about to go out the door, I'll think, what could I give my friend that I'm about to see? What would bless them today? Or, thinking about loved ones who I just want to bless, or I have an idea. And that focusing on my love for others builds me up. It's, when they say it's better to give than to receive, that is selfishly. It is better to give than to receive. I receive a bigger benefit, I believe, from that than the person probably who receives my gift. Today, I went out of my way there was a wasp and I was having a hard time getting it under my glass with a cardboard to let it free. I struggled to catch him. It was a pretty, one of those iridescent blue wasps, so I struggled to catch him, but then I caught him, and then I set him free and I watched him fly away, and it gave me a little reward. I know that there was a little reward in my brain because I got to be the hero. And that's the thing too, is that you will find when you are the hero, it will trigger reward sensations in your brain. And the more often you choose to be a hero, I look for opportunities all the time to, like, I saw a mother who was frantically crossing the street with her baby and her little boy, and she went into a gas station. So I followed her inside, and I said, "Did you miss a bus?" Or, you know, and she said, "I did." She said, "They left early and they left without me, and now I can't get to daycare." And so I'm like, "Well, hop in." So I took her there, and I got to be the hero that morning. So anything like that, I find that when I'm others focused, I automatically get a reward. The final aspect is our body. If you're more intellectual, there's a podcast, Are Stupid People Happier? It's from Stuff You Should Know, and it's funny, and they found, yeah, indeed, the lower your IQ, the happier you tend to be. You know, so some of us, we see our bodies as just the carrier of our 3 pounds of noodles, because what really matters to us is our heads. Your body and your emotions and your feelings, you're holistic, you cannot separate them. And the changes that I've made have needed to be made in my body in order to have the kind of life that I wanted to have. Just 2 minutes in a green space, or in a lush space, in a peaceful space. So in Minnesota, sometimes that means snow. But just 2 minutes in a peaceful space, not in busy traffic, is enough to rewire, to give you a lift, to give you a sense of well-being. And it's especially helpful in people who suffer from depression. But so 2 minutes is all it takes to reap a benefit from that. Now obviously more would be better. It'd be better if we went for a half an hour walk, but don't diminish small actions because they can have big returns. So just baby steps. Get up and get dressed. Act like you have somewhere to be. If you're so depressed that you're not taking care of yourself, make yourself presentable in a way that you feel good about. And if you put a little effort in, it's amazing how much a shower, makeup, a nice outfit can do for your sense of well-being. It really does help. So if you choose to just start somewhere, sometimes that's a great place to start, unless you're on the bed. If you're on the bed, then just start by praying. Like, oh God, help me get out of the bed. Then diet. Diet cannot be avoided when it comes to happiness because we know that there are foods that bring us well-being and there are foods that make us depressed. Sugar is what I would consider the number one enemy of our well-being. If you're on a blood sugar roller coaster, a lot of us are, and I was one of these people. I would recommend, there's a movie called That Sugar Film. It's entertaining and it will lay it all out for you in compelling terms. But I would recommend checking that out. Bottom line is that you end up, when you eat sugar, you get on a roller coaster that's about a 45-minute cycle, and then you plummet. And every 45 minutes, you need another hit. It leaves you in a constant cycle of anxiety and these mood swings that are hard to manage internally and also leave you in a fog a lot of the time. And it's a tough one. There was a study done with cocaine-addicted lab rats. They chose, and they were given the option, so the cocaine-addicted lab rats were given the option between sugar and cocaine, and they chose sugar 8 times as frequently. Sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So it's a tough one to change. There are methods of doing that. I might make a video on how I made the transition. But That Sugar Film would be an awesome place to start, and it is hard to manage your mood when you're on that roller coaster. Kate Moss famously said, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." I would expand on that. Granted skinny feels good, but I would expand on that with nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Nothing tastes as good as happy feels. Nothing tastes as good as energy feels. Nothing tastes as good as clarity feels. When you make what you put in your body a priority and do whatever you need to do, treat it like the emergency that it is, and take those steps. You know, it wasn't fun. Going through a sugar detox is not a fun phase. It messes with your head, but eat your fat. You can do it. I fiercely guard my sense of well-being. I do not let the water into my boat. I will not let other people. I have good boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, to take control of your life. It's your life. You can't just be a powerless person and accept whatever whatever happens to you. You need to learn to say no. I hope these tips have been helpful for you. I would love to see you take control of your thoughts. And then of course, even if it's in baby steps, take care of your body, take care of the toxins that come through, that inevitably will come into your life. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching.